92 to 95 FM, 810 medium wave, and online, BBC Radio Scotland.
I'm Vic Galloway, and this is School for Genius, the show where we give Scotland's primary schools a mental makeover with the help of mind reader Drew McAdam. In this week's boot camp for brains, the message is simple: nothing's impossible, whatever your dream.
Have a dragon for a pet.
To become a multi-billionaire.
My impossible dream is to live in a castle.
My impossible dream is to own a really rare car called a Zonda.
My impossible dream is to jump off Mount Everest with a bungee jump.
Well, I'm not too sure about that last one, but today's programme is all about harnessing the power of positive thinking to make your ambitions come true. And this time it's the turn of Cairns Primary School in Cambuslang to be on the receiving end of Drew's incredible mental powers. Before the show started, I asked him to explain just what he'd be showing the class.
Well, in many cases, things genuinely are impossible. Problem is, it's not the things that are impossible, it's the things that are improbable that we tend to label as being impossible. What I'm going to show the kids is that sometimes just by putting a label on something, we make it true for ourselves, and in actual fact we might be putting the wrong label on it. So rather than think, oh, I would never be able to do that, I haven't got the talent, I haven't got the brains, I haven't got the looks, whatever it may be, they can stop themselves and think, no, I can do that. I've seen things which are impossible being done, so why not this?
And do you think this would have been useful when you were at school?
Oh, without question. Kids, they're a blank slate. And it's very easy to send them off the wrong way by saying to them just one sentence, you'll never be able to do that. I think you have to encourage them, you have to show them, and I think this is a great way of doing it, of saying, do you think this is possible or do you think this is impossible? I think it's impossible, well, we're going to do it. Basically what we're trying to change is their own belief in themselves.
So it's all about confidence building and self-esteem as much as anything else?
That's a huge part of it, Vic. But more important, I think, even than that, is not just the confidence, but it's the belief. The belief in themselves. Yes, I can do that.
Drew's not the only person concerned that our children aren't developing the self-belief they should. Carol Craig is founder of the Centre for Confidence and Wellbeing in Glasgow and a leading figure in the field of positive psychology. For her, Scottish kids don't even give their dreams a chance.
Michael Jordan, the basketball player, didn't get into his school basketball team. He wasn't considered to be good enough. Walt Disney got fired from one of his jobs because he wasn't creative. There are lots of examples of people who didn't do very well early in life, but who got better. And what we are seeing in Scottish schools is this mixture of not believing that you're capable of doing things with kind of pessimism. And the toxic aspect of pessimism is, why bother trying?
Today's class at Cairns is a mix of primary 5s and 6s, so hopefully young enough to take Drew's message on board. We asked their teacher Helen Abbots what they're like as a class.
This particular class is a very nice class because the children are very much children. They're not cut down adults. They still think as children at this age, and this particular class is really quite good at responding to you and being enthusiastic about things. Primary 7s generally tend to be a bit more guarded about things. You know, I don't want to look like silly in front of my peers.
So, let's get on with the show. Let's hear a massive round of applause for Drew McAdam.
My name is Drew. What's my name? Drew. Yes, so you're all going to remember that, are you? Yeah. Now, we're going to have some fun today, let me tell you. I'm going to teach you how to do things that at the moment you think are impossible. Let's try something out here first then, okay? Would you like to try this with me? I can tell you're very keen there. Okay, I'm going to change my watch to a time, just a random time. I don't want you to know what that time actually is. Okay, what time do you think I'm thinking of? I want you to draw it on the piece of paper there so that everybody can see it. What o'clock do you think it is? 2. 2, okay. You think it's 2 o'clock? How many minutes after 2 o'clock do you think it is? 10. 10 past 2. Draw a clock there, a clock face. Yep, and just put in 2:10. All done? Tell everybody what time my watch says. What time's my watch at?
2:10.
Give this young lady a big round of applause. So maybe sometimes when we think something's impossible, maybe it's not. Would somebody else like to try another little mind-reading thing with me? Yeah, would you like to? Come on then, up you come. Anybody ever seen these kind of cards? Certain types of scientists use them for experiments and being able to read each other's minds. Okay, so we're going to try a little experiment just now. Okay? There are 5 symbols in here and they're repeated 5 times. There's a circle, a cross, 3 wavy lines, a square and a star. Okay? If you just cut the cards like that, cut all the symbols, that will bring a card to the top that we couldn't possibly know what it is, wouldn't it? Right? We can't know what it is. That's what I want you to do. So just cut the symbols in half, yep, and then put the other ones across. Now the top one, we can't possibly know what that is. Take that off, don't look at it, don't let anybody else see it, and slide it into your pocket. Okay? Done that? Excellent.
So, with one card put away for later, Drew gets the rest of the class to help shuffle the remaining pack.
Okay, and just turn them face down. If I said to you top or bottom, which would you say?
Top.
Top. Take off the top one. Just put it down there. If I said to you top or bottom, which would you say?
Top.
Take off one off the bottom. Just put it on top of that. Top or bottom, which would you say?
Top.
Take off the top one, put it on there. Top or bottom, which would you say?
Bottom.
Bottom. Take off the bottom one, put it there. Top or bottom?
Bottom.
Bottom, okay. Take off the bottom one. Okay, see the last card that you took off there? Have a look at it. Don't let anybody else see it. Just see which symbol's on it and remember it. Done that? Okay, don't let anybody else see it. Put it back with the other 4 cards you've got there and just mix them all around. Do you think I'd be able to work out which one he's thinking of? Let's just see. Think of your symbol. Just visualise it in your head. Visualise it in your head. I know it's one of these. I think this is the one you're thinking of.
Drew's holding up the card with the 3 wavy lines.
Tell everybody which one you're thinking of. What was the symbol?
3 wavy lines.
Give him a round of applause. Okay, now, this is where it gets a bit strange, okay? You've got, sorry, your name is?
Sean.
Sean, you've got one symbol in your pocket. You don't know what it is. Nobody in here knows what it is. I couldn't possibly know what it is. Couldn't possibly. It's impossible for any of us to know what symbol's in his pocket, isn't it? Hands up all those that think it's the cross. Nobody? Hands up all those who think it's a square. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Hands up all those who think it's a star. Hands up all those that think it's a circle. Oh. I think it's a circle too. Take the symbol out your hand.
It's a circle. It's a circle.
Give him a round of applause. Give yourselves a round of applause. Well done. What all have you seen now? You've seen me reading your mind. You've seen some of you reading my mind. Did you think before you saw these things that they were actually impossible? Sometimes you will think that things are impossible, but actually they're not. You're putting a label on them, saying that they're impossible. Part of the problem is that if you think that something's impossible, you make it impossible for yourself.
And the power of these preconceived ideas can't be underestimated. Carol Craig again.
There's an American psychologist called Carol Dweck, and I think her work is so relevant to us in Scotland. And she's saying there's a group of people that see things in terms of what she calls a fixed mindset. And they say, you're either clever or you're not clever. You're either good at maths or you're not good at maths. You're either a born businessman, manager or whatever, or you're not. And what Dweck's work is showing is that if you've a fixed mindset, failure is terrifying, because failure doesn't just say you haven't learned it yet, it's saying you haven't got it. And that's what I think is a major problem for a lot of kids now in our society. Lots of young people are saying we can't do things before they've even tried. There's another group of people that say, OK, some people might be born with a wee bit more natural ability than others, but the geniuses are few and far between. But the vast majority of people are people who, if they're motivated and you work really hard, then you can achieve much more than you think you can.
There's endless examples of the fixed mindset stopping us from becoming what we want. We've all heard the excuses for being a bit overweight. It's my metabolism. Or the ever-popular, I'm just big-boned. Well, Scottish Slimmer of the Year, Lisa Milburn, is living proof that with a little motivation and encouragement, even the most extreme case can be turned around.
When I first joined Scottish Slimmers, I was 21 and I weighed 29.5 stone. I'll always remember the first time I went to the class and I stood on the scales. My Scottish Slimmers leader, she weighed me, and I was obviously mortified at the amount that I weighed, and the thing that she said to me that made me really feel positive and better about being there was, well, we'll see less of you next week. And I just thought to myself, do you know what? You will see less of me next week. In my first week I lost almost half a stone. I lost about 6.5 pounds, I think. And by the end of my first year I'd lost almost 13 stone. People were paying me compliments left, right and centre, which it's such a boost to your morale, and it just keeps you going. And eventually I did set a target weight of 11.5 stone, and then towards the end, when things started to get difficult and maybe I wasn't losing weight every week as I should have been, I knew I just had to keep going until I hit the scales at 11.5 stone, which I did in February this year.
Back at Cairns Primary, Drew shares with the class why he's so passionate about getting them to believe in themselves.
Do you think you've seen things here today that are impossible?
Yeah.
Yeah? So maybe sometimes when we think something's impossible, maybe it's not. And I want you to be very aware of that. I don't want you to stick labels on things. I don't want you to listen to people who say, you can't do that, whatever your dream may be. What do you want to be when you leave school? What would you love to be?
An actor.
An actor. Because you're going to have people say to you, you can't do that. Don't listen to them. They'll tell you it's impossible. But you've just seen things today that a minute ago, when I first walked in here, you thought were impossible, didn't you? What do you want to be when you leave school?
An artist.
An artist. You know, that's one of the things I wanted to be, was an artist when I was at school. And everybody told me, you can't make money from art. Have they told you that? Of course they will. But I started as a commercial artist. So I was working in an advertising agency, doing drawings for adverts, all that kind of thing. And now in my spare time I do watercolour paintings, and I sell my paintings as well. So don't listen to anybody that tells you something's impossible. When I was a little boy, there was a whole list of things that I wanted to be. I wanted to be a fireman. Now that's impossible because I'm not tall enough to be a fireman. I wanted to be a spy because I liked the James Bond films. So that's what I want to be. I want to be a spy. Have any of you seen a James Bond car? You know, the one with the ejector seat and the... Yeah, you seen that? I wanted to have a ride in that car. Let me tell you, I managed to achieve everything that I wanted to do as a young boy. I didn't listen to people that were saying, you can't do that. I didn't listen to people that said, you're nuts. Do you know how I got in the fire brigade? I was a retained, that's like a volunteer firefighter. I got on by putting on a whole lot of pairs of socks before they measured me, because you have to be a certain height to get in, and I stretched myself up and I just made it. So I was a fireman. I wanted to become a spy. I joined the army and I became an intelligence officer. That's what I did when I had a real job. And an intelligence officer is a kind of spy. Remember saying about the James Bond car? I discovered that that was coming to a place not that far from where I lived. I became friends with the person who actually owned the car, and he let me in the car for a little ride. Another boyhood dream. And that's why I'm here today, to prove to you that sometimes you'll think to yourself, I can't do that, that's impossible. And all you're doing then is limiting yourself.
So what are the qualities of people who achieve their life's dreams?
Persistence is really important, and an ability to cope with failure. There's no doubt about this. Everyone is going to encounter setbacks in life, times where they don't do things as well as they might. They're going to have to then pick themselves up and get on with it. And I think that's often a defining characteristic between the people that very often succeed and the people that don't.
And teenage jam tycoon Fraser Doherty has certainly shown persistence. His super jam empire is a multi-million-pound business. But from its very beginning, it always seemed an unlikely proposition.
I started the business when I was 14, so about 5 years ago. I'm 19 now. My grandmother taught me how to make jam using recipes that she'd used all of her life, and I just got really excited about it and made a few jars of my own and sold them to the neighbours that day. And about a year later I decided to leave school and work on this hobby full time, and got to the point I was making about 1,000 jars of jam a week in my parents' tiny little kitchen. All along the way, as I was trying to develop the business, there were a lot of people who were very sceptical that it was the right thing for me to be doing it at such a young age. I always had the attitude that if it didn't work out, then I would have learned a lot from the process, and I have had a lot of fun along the way. So regardless of whether or not things were going to work out, I felt that I was gaining a huge amount from the process. My dad observed there was one point where everything had been completely rejected by the supermarket. You know, the labels we'd designed, the recipes, the price was too expensive. You know, everything just hadn't worked, and I had to scrap everything and start all again with the whole idea. And I felt very low for a couple of days, and then just kind of picked myself back up and tried again. And I think that it was just that point, and my dad kind of described it later and said, that was where there was something different between me and him, and that I could perhaps take such a big setback and really just brush it off and try again. I think I've kind of got a sense that anything I want to do, I can have a shot at, and that if something doesn't work, that it's okay and you can try something else. And that's perhaps something that's difficult to learn.
And Drew's next demonstration is all about how achieving the impossible means not giving up.
Who have I not used so far? All right, I'll have you, and I'll have you, and I'll have you, and I'll have I not used you? I'll have you as well then, please. Who else from here? Would you come up as well? Give a little round of applause as they come up. Who's the tallest? Who's the biggest? I think you're the biggest, are you? Would you mind taking a seat here, please? Okay, remember this is going to take total concentration, okay? Can you come round this side? Can you come round this side as well? I want you to stand in there, and I want you to stand in there. Okay.
So, with one pupil on a chair, two either side at the back and another two at the front, Drew gets those standing to take their right hand and put their first two fingers together, like they're about to have a shootout.
In a minute, you're going to put your fingers underneath there. You're going to put your fingers underneath his armpit there. You're going to put your fingers under there. You're going to put your fingers underneath his armpit. And on the count of 3, you're going to try and lift them. Okay? Okay? You happy with that? Okay, now never worry about it, just try and do it. No, concentrate. 1, 2, 3, put your fingers in there, go. Try and lift. Okay, lift. No, okay, let them go. Right, stand up a second.
Drew gets the kids to place their hands on top of one another, hovering over their seated classmate's head.
Now, I want you to imagine that there's a light going right down between all the hands and into the top of his head, right? Just imagine it, like a light going down, all the way down. Don't actually touch hands, okay? Now, this time I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. You just do the same thing with your fingers. Just lock fingers in where they were before and lift them. You ready? 1, 2, 3, go! Yeah! Okay, and lower them down. Give yourselves a round of applause. Now, isn't that strange? Would you like me to explain to you what actually happened there? Yeah? The first time they tried it, they took the fingers, they put it in, and they tried to lift. But my way of talking to them was quite discouraging. And they couldn't. Why couldn't they lift them? Because they were thinking it, because they didn't believe they could. What happened the second time? It's got nothing to do with putting your hands up like that. Absolutely nothing. Sorry? They started believing it. And then when I said, OK, this time it was much more upbeat. 1, 2, 3, all put their hands in. And he went right up in there, didn't he? Give them a round of applause again.
Now all safely back on the ground, I asked the boys what had happened. Ryan, tell me, before the guys lifted you up the first time, how did you feel out in front of the class?
Like they wouldn't be able to do it.
And what happened when they put their fingers underneath you?
They couldn't lift me up.
And then, the second time, what happened?
They lifted me up because they believed they could.
So the first time you tried to lift him up, what did it feel like?
Solid. Solid. The first time I tried to lift him up, it was dead solid to do it.
What happened? What made you be able to lift him the second time rather than the first?
Just the way we put our hands back under and then just lifted him up.
What was the difference between the first and the second time? How did you feel?
The first time we tried to do it, I felt a bit scared.
How did you feel about it?
I felt scared. I thought I was going to drop him.
What do you think Drew did to make you not feel scared anymore?
I don't know, as if it's to just make him pull light.
So what do you think is the lesson today from what Drew has been showing us all day?
Well, if you've got confidence in you, you'll probably be able to do it.
Self-belief is clearly crucial, but Carol Craig from the Centre for Confidence and Wellbeing would warn against relying on it alone.
I went into a school recently and watched a showcase that this group of kids were putting on about confident individuals, because this is one of the 4 purposes of education now. They did it very well and they did it very confidently, but what I found fascinating is that the way in which they were thinking of it was largely coming from celebrity culture. And the overarching message was, just believe in yourself and don't let anyone tell you that you're not capable of doing it. Now, I think this is coming to be a really, really important belief, that it's just about self-belief. And I wouldn't argue for a moment that self-belief is not an important ingredient. It is, and I think if you don't have it, I think it's very difficult. But it's not the only ingredient, and it's not enough on its own. And what's really important, and you can see this in things like the X Factor and so on, is people with so much self-belief that they will not hear any criticism of their performance. And what they need to believe is they can get there in the end, but they have to listen to what people are saying as a way to get better.
Out of gas, still burning.
Certainly no one would suggest that you can learn to drive through self-belief, whatever your age. And master kilt maker Ella MacDonald is no ordinary rookie driver. You know what they say about old dogs? Well, they've not met Ella.
So I watch my speed because this is 30-mile limit. You're on 2 years probation now when you pass your driving test. And you can lose your licence very easily for speeding. So I'm not about to ever do that. I just keep my eye on the wee needle.
Sorry about that.
Well, I started learning to drive. Actually, I was 75. I took it in earnest. I kept talking about it but not doing it. And one person said, "Isn't that against the law?" I said, well, it would be if I was mentally or physically unfit. But as I'm neither, then it's okay. With the theory test, that was something new for me because they told me that it would all be done on a computer. And I've never used one. And I thought, my goodness. Anyway, when I got there, they gave you a little trial and you just had to touch the screen. So I got a high mark for that. The man said it was excellent and I was the first one that morning to have passed my test. When I passed my test, I couldn't believe it. The examiner had taken quite a wee while to write something, and when they said, "I've got to tell you that you've passed your test," I went, "I've passed my test? I don't believe it." And I looked over at my instructor who was standing and I put the thumbs up. When she went out, she gave me the papers and that, and he goes, "My word, you did the drive of your life." He says, "No faults." I saw so many drivers that were such bad drivers, and I thought, that's ridiculous. I could do much better than that. I say, where there's a will, there's a way.
It's coming to the end of Drew's show at Cairns Primary. For this last experiment, he's drawn a 4x4 grid on the blackboard and handed out grids to all the pupils.
One more thing to teach you all. You're going to need 4 colour pencils. All that matters is that they're all different colours. So if you can kind of help yourself to a red, a blue, a green, a yellow or whatever. Can you all write the numbers 1 to 16 in your grid just exactly the same as that? All right, let's go. Pick up one of the colours and draw a line in any column you like with that colour straight down, so like that. You would do it something like that.
Drew gets the kids to do the same for all the columns and then all the rows.
All done? Let's try something interesting, OK? I want each of you to look at where the colours cross. So can you see here, just as an example, see where the blue and the blue meet? See where the blue and the blue meet? It meets at number 4 on mine, yeah? Everybody do that, but don't let any of your neighbours see where the colours cross. And that'll give you 4 numbers. Just circle them. OK, can you add up those 4 numbers you've got? I want you all to yell out if the number you've got is 34. It will always add up to 34 if you do it like that. Now that'll let you go home and say to your parents or your big brother, your big sister, do you want to see something impossible? There's something written up here and I want you all to read it out as I bring it down. Are you ready?
Yeah.
In time with my hand doing that.
Something's only impossible if you don't know how to do it.
Yeah! Let's have a massive round of applause for Drew. So, with the kids now equipped with skills to astonish those at home, I asked their teacher Helen Abbott about what she thought they'd got out of the afternoon.
I think they got the message that, you know, that you've got to think positively.
Do you think that an hour and a half's afternoon's worth of demonstrations and experiments is enough to trigger off something positive in this group of children?
Yes, I do. I think it only needs a small seed to be planted in their minds. They may not go out and do something right away, but the seed will be in their minds and it will grow. And yes, I think just an afternoon's demonstration can change the way they think.
And what about the class themselves?
I liked the bit when they levitated because I mean, it was quite cool when they did that and they couldn't, and then the second time they just went whoop and they left.
Like they had more courage in themselves, and then they were more determined to pick them up and use more of their strength.
Have you got more courage in yourself now after seeing Drew?
Yeah.
Have you enjoyed having Drew in the classroom today?
Yeah.
Did he make you think that things were maybe not impossible?
I think he told us that when we grow up we've got to have confidence in us.
And what do you think?
That he made us believe in ourselves.
Well, with that thought, my work here with the mental one is done. That's it for today. If you'd like to find out more, do visit the Radio Scotland website at bbc.co.uk/Radio Scotland. From there, you can follow the links to BBC Learning for video clips of some of the experiments we've done over the series. I'm Vic Galloway, and this has been School for Genius. Take care.